Okay, you guys, Shabbat Shalom. Last week, I inadvertently blocked the sound. I hope it's working. And if any of you would be so kind as to tell me, excuse me, that would be awesome. Shana Tova, that is the musical theme of Shana Tova. We are in the middle of the week of Tshuva. And Tshuva is about returning to ourselves. So I have something to read tonight, this evening. And as soon as I see a few people come on, I will share it. And meanwhile, I will just enjoy the singing and the joy of Shabbat, the music we love, and a little bit of the slowing down. Remember, the New Year, the Jewish New Year, is not a time to punish for self-punishment. Fasting is not about self-punishment. It's about self-reflection. And that's very, very, very different. Very different. Shana Tova, welcome to all of you. Ooh, 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 ooh. Just getting into Yadi nefesh Avarachaman Veshochatecha El Tzornecha Yarutzatecha Kemo Aya Yishkacha El Kol Hadarecha Yadi Nefesh Avarachaman Veshochatecha El Tzornecha Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. How did you do this week, between this week and last week, Yom Tov? Were you thinking about your year past? Were you thinking about your year to come? Because that's what we're supposed to do. So tonight I thought I'd just greet you with the in-between, Shana Tova, and read you a little something that I wrote. about this time of year, which I entitled on the preview, The Hallway. Tell you a little bit about the hallway. Getting my pick all fixed up. Lashana Tova, Phyllis. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Amir Bamaro Adonai Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai 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 Yalla lai lai la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la la la. It's good to see you tonight. I brought but will not blow the shofar simply because I've never been able to. I could give it a try. Okay, that was my try. We're struggling a little bit here in Northern California with some air quality issues. So pardon my coughing. I'd like to start with blessing the Shabbat candles in this week of Tshuva, of returning to ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav Vitzivonu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. So several years ago, I was asked to give a guest sermon on, I believe it was Yom Kippur, but maybe Rosh Hashanah at my synagogue. And that was an incredible, incredible honor. And I wrote two, and I'm not sure if I ever read this one. I think I read the other one. And in case you wonder what I'm doing, I'm putting this double stick tape on my pick so that when I hold my pick to sing, it stays in my hand. One more song and I'll read you my little sermonette. Shabbat, happy Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, good Shabbos to Phyllis and Facebook user and Michael. Ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim va'aretz. Esa einai elei arim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Asa einai elei arim, me'ayin yavo ezri. So before I start my little story, my little sermonette, I want to tell you an experience that I have, which is valuable to me, and perhaps it might be valuable to you and others to understanding. So I do a special kind of work called life coaching, parent coaching, teen coaching. It's not therapy. It's not clinical. It's just helping out. It's being, as my wife said, a rent-a-dad or a rent-an-uncle or a rent-a-brother or a rent-a-something, someone. Anyway, I work with many, many people. And from time to time, I work with people who struggle with depression. And there's sort of depression with a capital D and depression with a small d. So either one is hard. So there's a couple things I've learned about understanding. Call it depression. We used to call it sadness, whatever you want to call it. Call it melancholy. It drifts from feeling to feeling. But when it is the capital D, sometimes we hurt or misunderstand people by saying, well, can't you just get over it? Why can't you just deal with it? I mean, just stop. And this afternoon I was reminded of that because I get headaches. It's one of my Achilles heels, or one of my my sadnesses. I get headaches. They come from the back of my shoulder, from my trapezius, and they shoot up my head, and they almost make me want to go. And then I take some aspirin or some Tylenol, reservedly, or some Advil, or I use a massage ball, or I in some way work on it. Today I had one of those headaches. And what I did was I worked on it with a, you know what's great? I'll tell you, it's a lacrosse ball. If you go down to your local Big Five or whatever, you buy a lacrosse ball and then just lay on the floor and just rub that on your trapezius and on the other trapezius. Move your head around and kind of move your arms back. And nothing was working, so I went and took a couple Tylenol, and suddenly I realized my headache was gone. What I experience when my headache is gone, and headache can usually last a day, half a day, few hours, rarely overnight, rarely longer than a part of a day. And I'm very, very, very grateful that the headache has gone away. It's a euphoric feeling right now that I have just because the headache has gone away. And hello, Martha, and hello, Rachel Mazel Tov. My more Hasidic friends have told me that Mazel Tov actually means may a bit of the magic of the angels or may a bit of God drip down on you. Mazel Tov. So May you feel that. And may you all remember that we are blessed with things we don't understand, but with things that protect us and send us love. Anyway, about the headache. So you have people who say, "Oh, you depression. They minimize it." And for years and years, I tried to explain to people, because I've known people throughout my life who have been depressed with a capital D, which basically says they have a diagnosis or they have a clinical chronic condition. And it's very painful, very painful. And it can lead to very sad circumstances, including sad endings. So one time I was talking to someone and they made one of those dismissive comments. And I said, look, I understand. I think I understand. Thank God I don't experience depression with a capital D. I experience a lot of depression with a small d. Imagine if you've had a headache or a backache or any kind of ache or pain that's pretty bad. And even a canker sore, I know that's minimizing it, but something that comes and torments you and then goes away. Well, imagine having that splitting, horrendous pressure headache for a year or 2 years straight, every day and every night and every morning and in the middle of the night. And you go to bed with that headache and you wake up in the morning, the headache's still there. And then it's Tuesday and the headache's still there. And it goes on and on and on. I'm imagining that is a little bit more of what people are talking about when they're talking about depression with a capital D. Remember, I disqualify myself. I'm not a clinician. I'm not a therapist. But I am an intuitive human being who has lots of love to give. And we know that love is quite healing, that it can go a long way. Anyway, about depression with a small d. Call it sadness, call it melancholy, whatever you want to call it. Sometimes I'll just be standing there and I'll feel a wave of sadness. And it's harsh. It's not, I think, what people experience in the more clinical version, but it's intense. I found a couple of things that relieve it tremendously. But one in particular, I learned, and that is go to another room. Go to another space. Because when you go to another room, when you go to another space, it changes everything. And just see what happens. One of my little self-care tools. Hi diddy die diddy die 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 diddy die diddy die. Yai diddy die diddy die 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 yai diddy die diddy die. Die diddy die die diddy die. Hey yai diddy die diddy die. I'm celebrating because I look forward with expectation and awe to High Holy Days, and I also look forward to after the High Holy Days, because then comes more fall, winter, and wonderful feelings of transition. Anyway, here goes my sermonette, which I came up with, but never gave, because I gave a different one, and maybe next week I'll give that one. So I'm going to test your your quotation acuity. The quotation is, when one door closes, another door opens. But we often look so long and so regretfully upon the closed door, we do not see the one which has opened for us. Who said that? How many people have ever said, oh, look, when one door closes, another door opens? Alexander Graham Bell has been underquoted for his entire post-life existence. So remember, when one door closes, another opens, And then it's followed by something we don't hear as often, but we often look so long and so regretfully. And by the way, regret is it's one of those feelings that is not so helpful. It's not so productive. This week I sat down for Yom Tov and I wrote all the words I could think of that started with re. You want to have a good, full experience of Yom Tov, write down as many words as you can that begin with re. And they almost all relate to Yom Tov. All right, later on, someone added, when one door closes, another door opens. It's the hallways that are the hard part. It's the hallways that are the hard part. It seems we always have to pass through a hallway to get to a new door that Bell speaks of. We have this natural tendency when looking back at the closed door to wallow, to ruminate, to reflect, to regret, to ponder, and to reframe. A lot of re's there. We need to do this. The process is essential to moving forward. And even after we spend a while looking back, we have this great tendency to find a new door, often with the very same issues inside. So what happened right before we closed the door? Was there a heartfelt send-off, or did the door just whack you in the tush? Did we stay too long that by the time we left, there was a sigh of relief from behind the closed door? Did we leave the closed door on bad terms with unfinished business and lessons unlearned? Did the door close because someone died and we were left speechless and wishing we had said things that we did not say? Are we moving in circles and closing the same door over and over and over? When we look back to the days and months and years which preceded the closing of the door, what do we recall? Did we quit the job in a huff, in anger? Did we leave a relationship that saw passionate love turn to venomous rage and hatred? Did the door close partially because we refused to own our own part, see ourselves and accept the imperfection of the other? Did self-righteousness and egoism block our ability to be compassionate, forgiving, and merciful? In regard to this experience, I've come up with an acronym, and it's called WIMP. Don't be a wimp. When you've had an argument with someone or you're closing a door, don't be a wimp. What does WIMP mean? What is my part? I always have some part in it, both good and bad. Did the self-righteous egotism block our ability to be compassionate, forgiving, and merciful? What happens in the hallway? And how can we find our way to the next door? It seems like we have periods in our lives of what I call cosmic status quo. We roll along in kind of an obvious equilibrium, believing that it will always be just like this. We remember the pursuit when we had finally gotten what we had always wanted, experiencing the new car smell of life. For a few brief seconds, we were in what we call the desireless moment. The honeymoon ended, and we lived in the glow, and then the lull and the balance, or in some cases, the mundane staleness of ephemeral contentment. The door closed, as it always does, and we threw away the key lest we should ever drift back in that door. What is left behind us is often frustration, the disappointment, the angst, the fear, and the ugly. We're glad to be rid of it. Unavoidably, what is also left are the should-haves and the if-onlys, the blindness of our own misdeeds, the why didn't I's, unpaid debts, unmended fences, angry thoughts, vengeful fantasies, tears of guilt and shame and blame and remorse, and instantly regretted comments and words we wish we never said. My grandmother once told me to always finish before you exit the door, because whatever you left unlearned and whomever you blamed it on will be waiting for new experiences on the other side of the door to teach you those lessons. My grandma was right, and indeed some of those pop up over and over and over and over and over again. Yom Tov, High Holidays, is a perfect rendition of the hallway. This week is like one big hallway. The ominous door of the old year, which began slowly closing the minute it opened, will shut tight after Yom Kippur, never to reopen. The year will be written in stone. No human has ever figured out how to stop the new year from turning and the old year from closing. Ready or not, it closes, and the destiny, which we looked forward to in curiosity last year at this time, is now set in stone, immune from our sentiments, regrets, and misgivings. So, as we chant the Kol Nidre, we tremble in acceptance that we will fall short, and we beg for forgiveness and mercy in advance. This period of Teshuvah, the period of returning to ourselves, that culminates with the virtual closing of the gates or the closing of the door and the entry into the new story or the new door or the new year is a new unknown. The 10 days that we are in the middle of are for many of us a hallway, sometimes dark, cold, and unmerciful, and then again accepting, forgiving, and understanding. Because you can't leave the old door open, because the year passes. And just as we say, it is written, who shall live and who shall die, it was written, and who did and who didn't, and who lived and who died. And certainly what a year it's been. One year, many years past, I simply missed the High Holy Days. They didn't necessarily miss me. It was just one of those years when I sort of didn't have time to stop. While everyone else in the community was exhaling their misgivings and inhaling the sumptuous break the fast dinner, I was immediately regretting my loss. I spoke to my rabbi at the time, and he assured me that there was still a narrow opening in the gates that begin to open at Slichot and close at the end of Shemini Atzeret, that I could slip back in sideways. That Sukkot, Simchat Torah, Shemini Atzeret could be for me a last chance to wander into the gates, contemplate what was going away behind the closed door, emerge into the hallway, and come out the other end. I did that, and I was grateful for that advice. And when I emerged from that God-given hallway, I had a fantastic realization that would guide me and still guides me for years to come. We pass in and out of the hallway over and over again throughout the days, months, years, and decades, and through a lifetime. The doors open and close quickly, while the hallway remains still. We are in the hallway of our conscience the very moment after we make a harsh judgment or comment. We are in the hallway of our mind when we are moved to reflect on our own irrational acts. We are in the hallway of regret as we drive away in the morning after a bad morning getting the kids ready for school. We are in the hallway of mercy and giving when we are needed because someone is sick or someone has died. We are in the hallway of restitution when we suggest or offer to repay someone for damage or misfortune that we have caused them. When we are behind the old door, we cannot see in front of us. We can only imagine. And when we are out the door and at the threshold of the new door, we so easily forget the lessons and experiences that spoke so loudly behind the closed door. We're going to sweep them under the old door and under the rug. It is when we are in the hallway that we are defenseless, vulnerable, self-aware, honest, and free. Free from the albatross of ourselves. There, all of our resolutions, here, all of our resolutions, promises, pledges, and oaths are born and earnestly spoken. And those we have not kept are humbly noticed. We are unable to hide from our hearts, our spirits, and our souls during Teshuvah. When the new door opens, we see sunlight, civility, encouragement, and redemption. We hear it in the same way the child who has been suspended from school hears a wise teacher in an open doorway smile and say, okay, let's try it again. Welcome back. Our religion and culture gives to us a sanctified and holy hallway each week. And many of us find every excuse to avoid the pause. We choose to pass from the closed door of the week just finished directly into the new door, circumventing the hallway of Shabbat. The hallway of Shabbat is rarely, if not ever, dark or cold or lonely or unforgiven. The hallway of Shabbat is actually a little taste of the hallway of Tshuva. The Dalai Lama, in his book Ethics for a New Millennium, inspired me to see that, in fact, the world is only 5 seconds away from the path to a messianic life filled with peace, abundance, and sharing. Try counting with me to 5 slowly and deliberately right now. 1, 2, slow down, 3, 4, 5. So it is in those 5 seconds that we can create a path, a momentary hallway, to reconsider our words and to reconsider our actions. And when necessary, correct ourselves before the misdeed is even done, so we don't have to apologize. So we now don't have something that we said or did that we can never take back. Think of how much better off the world would be and how many fewer times you would have to say, I'm sorry I did that. I wish I hadn't said that. If only I could go back and think about how much more laughter would fill the air. Because the result of tshuva, the result of reflecting, the result of looking that way in reverse and coming forward with new intention, with new stories. Think about how refreshing that is and how much joy that conjures up. We don't have to be the same people over and over and over again. We don't have to experience the same hurt over and over and over again. We don't have to repeat the past over and over again. We don't have to inflict our past on others. And it is only through moving forward out of the old door, which featured a bunch of good stuff and some not so good stuff, through the hallway, through the contemplation, that which we can do every week or once a year or every day, not being too hard on ourselves, and to bring a new story. So what new story do you want to bring this year? I think my new story this year is a continuation of an old story, an old news story that I've been trying to enact for many years, which is to move away from fear. Fear has caused me to do things that under normal circumstances I would not have done. And fear has caused me to not accept opportunities and chances that I could have done. So I'm moving my story this year into leaving fear behind. What if this happens? What if that happens? Oh my God, wake up in the morning. I wake up in the morning to think of or remember what I'm afraid of, what I'm worried about. I like that to stop. And there's a fabulous, fabulous Yom Tov movie that I would suggest to you. It's an old movie. It's probably on Netflix, and you might have an old copy of it in your closet. It's called Defending Your Life, and it was with Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks. And it's about what happens the moment after we die, where we go to, and what kind of challenges are put in front of us. And in a way, it speaks largely to this holiday and to the question of fear. And not did we avoid fear, and not did we run from fear, but how did we meet fear? Ufros aleinu sukkah, sukkah, shomecha, aleinu ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, la 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 la. Ufros aleinu ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. I'd like to sing one of my favorite songs. Oh, I don't have the second page. I guess I won't be singing that. I'll sing one of my other favorite songs. I know Phyllis loves this song, and I hope the rest of you love it too. If you've never heard it before, enjoy it. It's not called Yesterday. It's not called Tomorrow, but it is called Today. Today, while the blossoms still cling to the vine, I'll taste your strawberries, I'll drink your sweet wine. Million tomorrows shall all pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine today. Well, I'll be a dandy, and I'll be a rover. You'll know who I am by the songs that I sing. Each deck your table, I'll sleep in your clover. Who cares what tomorrow may bring? Today, while the blossoms still cling to the vine, I'll taste your strawberry, I'll drink your sweet wine. A million tomorrows shall all, ere I forget all the joys that are mine. Hey, I can't be content with yesterday's glory. I can't live on promises, winter through spring. Today is my moment, now is my story. I'll laugh and I'll cry and I'll sing. Today, while the blossoms still cling to the vine, I'll taste your strawberry, I'll drink your sweet wine. A billion tomorrows shall all pass away, ere I forget all the joys that are mine today. I don't know if some of you came later than when I blessed the candles, so I was like to bless them twice. There's nothing wrong with blessing them twice. blessing is loving, and blessing is not just thanking, but blessing is acknowledging the source. And sometimes it's better that we not use the word God, and instead we use the word source. What is a source? A source is where something comes from. So last night with a group, I had a bag of tangerines, and I passed the tangerines around. And I had everybody just hold the tangerine. And we went 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 circles around and shared every possible source of the tangerine, from the ground to the dirt to the water to the farmer to the planter to the picker to the transporter to the boxer to the packager or the bagger to the store, to the grocery store, and all the way to my hands, and then to each of the students' hands. And when we were done, we realized we had created a verse. A verse, yes, we had created a blessing. You know, blessings and prayers didn't used to have prescriptive words to them. So on this Yom Tov, I'd like to encourage people who have fear or angst or doubt or cynicism or skepticism towards the concept that there is something out there that we can't see, touch, feel. No, but we can have faith in. Just don't name it, and just don't characterize it, but rather feel it in the orange, in the tangerine, feel it in the juice of the tangerine, in the blessing of the peeling, klipa, the peeling that surrounds the fruit. That as soon as we open the fruit, we dispose of the peeling, yet the peeling spent its whole existence protecting the fruit. And I gave that analogy to young people about parents sometimes, that not a great idea to discard that which has protected you and nurtured you to your zenith. So that was a cool message, I thought. I learned that in one of my Jewish classes, this concept of peeling. Most fruits and many foods have a peel. You have to peel them open. And the peel becomes superfluous the minute that it's off. But while it's on, it is the protector of life. And if it should be prematurely removed, it doesn't work, which is why sometimes even exposing children to concepts and ideas that they're not ready for is kind of like peeling open a rose. And the effort dies, and we have to wait longer. Anyway, that's my my drosh tangent for tonight. If you have a cup of wine or grape juice or any other liquid that you consider to be holy in this moment, before I go on, I'm going to say hi to Phyllis, and hi to Michael and Rachel, and hi to Martha and Mom, and again Phyllis, and anybody else that that came tonight on this, my who knows what, but at least 70th or 80th Shabbat of observance, at least in terms of this context, which has been really meaningful to me. Again, when we bless the wine or the grape juice, we're not blessing that. We're blessing the source, right? Berei Pri Hagafa, the fruit of the vine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei Pri Hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu Shabbat kodsho be'ahava uv'ratzon hinchilanu Ikaron lemase v'reishit, ki hu yom tehila lemikra kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, v'yotanu kidashta, mikol amin. Shabbat Kodecha, Be'ahava Uratzon, Inchaltanu, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Meanwhile, on Erev Yom Kippur, Wednesday night of this week, I will be doing an outdoor Yom Tov pre-Kol Nidre celebration, commemoration, gathering for teens at Shomer Torah on Bennett Valley Road in Santa Rosa. And I invite you to join us. And if you can't join us, we will most likely have a Facebook Live and a YouTube channel going so that you can also tune in for your kids, no matter where you are, which is one of the, what should we call it, the silver linings, the gifts of the challenge that we've been through. So we celebrate the Shabbat with these beautiful candles. I'm about to have my Shabbat dinner with my Shabbat princess, queen, whom I love with all my heart, and my children, and my grandchildren, and my friends, and all the people that are in my life make up the huge spiral cohort that makes life worth living. And I'd like to end tonight, before we do the Shema, with this little thing that I say, which is that each and every one of us came into the world because of an act in a moment in which some chemicals that were out there in the universe came together and made up the millions, out of the millions of possibilities, the infinite possibilities, made up who we were to be. And that means every one of us is special and important. And when we came into the world, we didn't just come into the world to pass by. We came into the world to be on the continuum of humanity and the continuum of Judaism. And we are participants, and it's an amazing journey of successes and less than successes. So when we chant the Shema, and then I end with I'll end with Shekianu, which celebrates that continuum that we came from all the way back then to now. Let's think about the most important word in the Shema, at least in my estimation, which is one. The oneness that we are, the big oneness that we are all part of, and the one vision that we all deeply share, which is Shalom, peace. Peace in our own hearts, peace in our families, peace in our homes, peace in our communities, peace in our country, and peace in the world. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malkuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu, Melech HaOlam, Shehekianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen. Shabbat Shalom. Have an easy fast. Shana Tova. We will see you next Friday for Shabbat. As that old door closes and the hallway opens, we pass through the hallway and we move into the new door.